Let me guess, you tried all kinds of diets and weight loss trends and hacks, but nothing seems to work. Well, stick around because in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how to actually lose weight and keep it off for good. From the physiological basics of fat loss to all the tips and tricks and do's and don'ts, we're gonna dive into everything you need to know. For those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Kayo. I'm a certified nutritionist and health coach, and I've personally lost 22 pounds and kept it off for years now, and I've helped countless of clients to do the same. So trust me, this isn't another quick fix approach, but one that actually works long-term and is sustainable. First things first, let's all start calling it fat loss rather than weight loss. Why? Because sure, you probably want to lose weight on the scale, but I'm guessing you also want to keep the muscle and stay as strong as you are and only lose the fat so you can look slimmer and more toned. Am I right? And before we get going, let's throw two things out the window. Number one, forget about BMI. If you're still using BMI as a reference point, let's just ditch that. BMI doesn't tell you anything about your body composition, like the ratio between body fat and body muscle. So for example, a short, muscular athlete will have the same BMI as someone who is taller and carries more fat, even though their physiques are completely different. Do you see what I mean? Number two, stop obsessing about the scale. Weighing yourself on a scale doesn't account for anything like water retention, which can completely mess with your perception of progress. Instead, I like to focus on how I feel in my body, how my clothes may fit, my energy levels, and so on. If you do prefer something a little bit more tangible, then taking a measuring tape and measuring yourself around the waist or hips or legs or wherever, I think is a way better option. But let's get to the good stuff. Before we dive into the actual tips of how to lose weight, it's super important to understand the basics of how fat loss works on a physiological level. Once you've got that down, everything else will make so much more sense. So let's start with the basics. You probably have heard people say that losing weight is as simple as calories in versus calories out, and that all you have to do is stay in a calorie deficit. So basically, if you burn more calories than you consume, you lose weight. And equally, if you eat more calories than you burn, your body stores that extra energy as fat. Now, while that is true on paper, I do have a few issues with that statement, which we'll get to in a little bit. But for now, let's explore it a little bit further, because I do think it provides a solid foundation to understand how fat loss actually works. So energy in is the easy part, right? That's just the calories you consume through food and drinks. But energy out is where it gets a little bit more complex. Your body is doing a lot behind the scenes, 24/7 to keep you alive, healthy, and moving. All these processes require energy also 24/7. And that total amount of energy your body uses in a day is called your total daily energy expenditure. TDEE. That total daily energy expenditure is made of 4 components. Number one is your basal metabolic rate, BMR. This is kind of the energy your body needs to maintain basic life functions, like breathing, circulating blood, and keeping your body temperature stable. So even if you laid in bed all day doing absolutely nothing, no fidgeting, no eating, no nothing, you'd still burn calories just to keep these processes running. Then we have physical activity. This refers to the energy you burn through any intentional exercise, whether that's hitting the gym, going for a run, smashing out a yoga session, whatever it is. But then we also have all sorts of non-exercise movements throughout the day, right? Whether that is brushing your teeth, doing the laundry, cooking, hiding your place, pacing up and down while you're on the phone. That kind of stuff also requires energy, and every single movement adds up. So that non-exercise movement all falls within NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And then the fourth component is TEF, which stands for thermic effect of food. So believe it or not, but your body actually burns calories just by digesting, absorbing, and metabolizing the food that you put inside of your body. And this TEF actually varies ever so slightly depending on what type of food you're consuming. Quick spoiler, protein burns the most. So, and when you combine all these components, you get your total energy out. So the first thing I want you to do when it comes to fat loss is calculate your TDEE. Don't worry, it's super easy. There's a ton of free online calculators out there where you can just plug in your details, your numbers, and then it spits you out a number that tells you your maintenance calories. I have 1 or 2 calculators linked below. And so that number, your maintenance calories, is the number of calories that you need to to maintain your current body weight. So if your goal is fat loss, all you have to do is to increase that number and or decrease your energy in number, and therefore create a calorie deficit. So basically eat fewer calories than that number or burn more calories than you eat. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's first discuss how much of a deficit you want. A good starting point for emphasis on sustainable. So a good starting point for sustainable fat loss is around a 10% calorie deficit. So here's an example. If your maintenance is 2,000 calories, because you just calculated that with the link below, then a 10% deficit is around 200 calories. So you would aim to eat around 1,800 calories a day. If your maintenance is above those 2,000 calories, then you can go up to a 15% deficit if you feel comfortable. But if your maintenance is 2,000 or less, then I wouldn't recommend going higher than a 10% deficit just to keep things sustainable. And so with that deficit, you will obviously gradually lose fat. For some context, 1 pound of body fat equals about 3,500 calories, whereas 1 kilogram of body fat equals around 7,700 calories. So let's do some maths. If you maintain a calorie deficit of 200 calories each day while staying active and eating enough protein and preserving your muscles, you would burn/lose 1 pound of fat in about 18 days and 1 kilogram of fat in about 39 days. And I know this doesn't sound very fast, but that's the whole point, right? We want to keep things long-term sustainable, something that will stick around and doesn't just end up in a yo-yo effect. So yes, sure, you could increase your calorie deficit just to speed things up a little bit, but especially if you're just starting out or if you really want to maintain it long-term, I wouldn't recommend it for most people. Going too extreme can just really backfire, where excessive calorie restriction can either end in a binge restrict cycle, which leads to intense hunger, often resulting in overeating, binging on high calorie foods like pizza, cookies, and all that. And then this kind of cycle can create guilt, stress, and you guessed it, more restriction. And then it's a never-ending vicious cycle. The second thing to look out for is that prolonged calorie restriction can actually slow down your metabolism through a process called adaptive thermogenesis. So your body becomes super efficient at burning fewer calories even at rest, which makes fat loss so much harder over time. And lastly, we have the hormonal imbalances that can occur. So the hunger regulating hormones like ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, can go into overdrive, making you feel just absolutely ravenous, whereas leptin, which is your fullness hormone, becomes less effective, so it's harder to feel satisfied after meals. And for those 3 reasons, we want to preserve our metabolism, we want to preserve our muscles, we want to preserve our activity level, and going in small increments when it comes to the calorie deficit. So now that we know that the energy expenditure needs to be higher than the energy consumed, let's talk about how we can actually increase that energy expenditure to hit that calorie deficit without necessarily having to eat less. And I think this is where most people go wrong, because a lot of people think, oh my God, in order to lose weight, I need to eat less, I need to restrict on all the calories. But that's not necessarily the case. You can absolutely achieve that calorie deficit by eating the same amount and just upping your exercise, for example, or increasing your BMR. How do we do that? So to summarize, way number 1, of course, is to simply eat less and lower the number of calories you consume. But this other, more fun way is to increase the energy your body burns by, you guessed it, exercising. Why is exercise such a game changer when you want to lose fat? Exercise isn't just about burning calories while you work out. It also increases your metabolism post-workout, which means your body carries on burning fat for up to 24 hours after you're done with your workout. This is called the afterburn effect and just one of the many perks of moving your body. So when you had a really good workout yesterday, your body might still be burning more calories than usual the following day before you even go into your next workout. But that's not all. No. The more muscle mass you have, the higher your BMR. And we remember as the BMR is one part of that equation that determines our daily expenditure. Why is that? Muscle tissue is metabolically active and requires more energy than fat tissue just for merely existing. So people with more muscles automatically burn more fat even at rest, just to keep the basic functions going, like breathing, body circulation, and thermoregulation. To put simply, by building muscle, you're essentially turning your body into a calorie burning machine, even when you're just chilling on the couch. Don't we all want that? Then what type of exercise are we talking here? For best results, you want a combo of cardio or HIIT, high intensity interval training, to burn calories and fat, as well as strength training to build muscle. Again, I think the misconception is a lot of people just aim for a ton of cardio and HIIT to just burn those calories. But as we just discussed, you want to build muscle to keep burning fat even while you're not working out. Because just doing cardio and eating less over time can actually lead to muscle loss. And that, trust me, is the last thing you want. Losing muscle slows your metabolism, making long-term weight loss so much harder and just way less sustainable. On the flip side, focusing on building muscle while maintaining your metabolism not only leads to better fat burning results, but also reduces hunger and makes weight maintenance so much easier in the long run. Now, all of this may sound pretty theoretical and like you should track calories obsessively. But before you panic, let me give you my quick take on tracking calories. On the one hand, I'm not completely against tracking calories, especially if you're just starting out on your health and weight loss journey. For me personally, tracking my food for a while was honestly really eye-opening because it really helped me see and understand where I was unintentionally overeating or even under-eating certain nutrients. So for example, I realized I wasn't eating enough protein unless I made a conscious effort to include more. I also learned that carbs are in way more than just pasta and bread. For example, starchy vegetables. And I also noticed I wasn't getting enough magnesium and other nutrients that I hadn't even thought about. So honestly, I do think that it can be a very valuable tool for some people, especially when you're just starting out, just because it gives you a really good idea of kind of your baseline, your starting point, and where you have room for improvement. And it also makes you realize how many calories are in certain products that you would never know about unless you actually consciously look at how many calories and fat and protein and everything it contains. Having said that, I do not recommend my clients or anyone to track calories long term. And here's why. I think it can make you overly obsessed with what you're eating and turning food into kind of a numbers game and sucking all the joy out of the meals instead of just enjoying the food. And as cringy as it sounds, but life's way too short for that. And secondly, it makes everything very rigid, where you feel like you have to hit a specific calorie number every single day, which is so not realistic or sustainable. Because here's the thing, long-term averages matter so much more than that daily precision. So if you have a couple of higher calorie days and a couple of lower calorie days, it all balances out over the week. And let's be honest, that kind of eating is way more realistic. You'll end up in the exact same place as someone obsessively counting calories every single day, just with way less stress and a lot more freedom. So to summarize this first portion of the video, while understanding the basics of calories in versus calories out is super important, it's just one piece of the puzzle. And as a holistic health coach, I'd be doing you a complete disservice if I didn't mention all the other factors that come into play when it comes to weight loss. To name a few, we have stress, sleep, your hormones, your mindset, and quite a few more that we're going to discuss now. So here are my actionable tips on how to actually lose weight or fat, as we clarified earlier, and keep it off for good. To burn fat efficiently, you should keep your insulin levels low, especially before exercising, but ideally throughout the entire day. One way to do this is by fasting, but let me be real, I don't recommend fasting for most women for a bunch of reasons, which we're gonna save for a whole nother video another day. Another way to do this, which I definitely recommend, is by eating foods that don't spike your insulin levels. Here we're talking proteins and healthy fats. Which brings me to tip number 2, which is to stabilize your glucose levels throughout the entire day. How do we do that? We want to eat balanced meals that include the following. We want to eat whole carbohydrates. Think whole grains, fruits, and veggies. And yes, like I mentioned earlier, even fruits and veggies contain carbohydrates. You don't have to eat plain bread, pasta, and rice just to hit your carbohydrates for the day. These carbohydrates will give you energy and fiber to keep things running smoothly, and that's super important. Number 2, protein. This is a big one, not just for maintaining the muscle mass during fat loss that we talked about earlier, but also for healthy hormones, balanced glucose levels, and so much more. So especially during a calorie deficit, protein is absolutely crucial to preserve muscle. Aim for 1.3 to 1.6 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So for example, if you weigh 60 to 65 kilograms, you should shoot for around 82 to 100 grams of protein daily. And thirdly, we want to include healthy fats. I feel like a lot of people, when they hear fat loss, instantly assume that they have to cut out all fats of their diet, which is absolutely not true. Sure, fat has more calories per gram compared to carbs or protein, but that doesn't mean we don't need fats. We obviously want to avoid the processed unhealthy fats, but healthy fats are so important and absolutely essential for hormone production and nutrient absorption. So definitely include avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, fatty fish, and so on. And one of the best ways to really set the tone for steady glucose levels throughout the entire day is to start off with the high protein, savory, balanced breakfast that is low in sugars and simple carbs. It's because stabilizing your glucose levels helps you achieve metabolic flexibility, which means your body can switch effectively between burning glucose and burning fat for energy, and not just rely on glucose for its energy. This makes it so much easier to tap into those fat storages, prevent hunger spikes, reduce cravings, keep insulin levels in check, and just makes you feel better and more energized overall. And a couple more hacks from the glucose goddess to really balance your blood sugar is try to eat your veggies first, because veggies actually contain fiber, and fiber slows down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream. So if you eat the fibers first and line your gut lining with the fiber first, you will slow down and kind of flatten out those blood sugar spikes. And the other one is to go for a quick walk after you've eaten. Tip number 3 is eat regular meals. I know we said we want to be in a calorie deficit, but that does not mean we should completely restrict or skip meals altogether. We want to aim for 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with an optional snack if you feel like it, because that regular meal schedule signals your body that food is consistently available and not scarce. And that in turn tells your body that there's no need to panic, that we don't have to overeat when food is available, and that we also don't need to hold on to extra fat. So eating regular meals not only helps stabilize your metabolism, but also prevents your body slipping into that starvation mode. Tip number 4, and one of the main reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of the simple calories in versus calories out approach, is nutrient density, which completely gets ignored by that approach. Focusing on nutrient-dense food not only gives your body all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients it needs, it also keeps you feeling fuller and much more satisfied for longer automatically. A great example is a story shared by Joshua Rosenthal, who's the founder of the Institute for Integrated Nutrition, and he said he had a patient who physically could not stop eating and always felt hungry even though he was constantly eating fast food. And so Joshua's response was, maybe your body isn't hungry for food, but it's hungry for nutrients. And so the thing with your body is that it's not going to say, oh, hey, I'm lacking zinc and magnesium, can you please eat spinach the next time you eat something? But instead just sends out a signal for hunger in the hopes that you're going to feed it something that contains those nutrients. But when you don't feed it those nutrients, it's going to keep sending the hunger signal. So when you fill your diet with a ton of nutrient-dense foods, your body naturally gets everything that it's been asking for, and as a result, you naturally start craving less. If you've learned something new so far, please give this video a thumbs up so YouTube can suggest it to other people that may benefit from this. And if you've learned 2 new things by the end of this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me grow and lets me create valuable content like this for you for free. Number 5, it's super important to understand how stress and weight loss are connected. Chronic stress raises cortisol levels, which can increase hunger, lead to cravings for sugary and salty foods, and cause fat storage, especially around the belly. And here's how it works. When your body is stuck in that fight or flight response due to ongoing stress like deadlines and aimlessly scrolling on social media and an overload of information and all those modern stresses, just as much as family issues and relationship issues and all that, your body wants to keep you safe. So it's going to focus on survival rather than recovery or weight loss, because recovery or weight loss is not necessary for you to survive. This means processes like digestion or fat burning completely slows down, making it harder to lose weight. And honestly, you've probably experienced this yourself. So remember a time when you were stressing about your diet, obsessing over what you should or shouldn't eat, worrying about losing weight for an upcoming event, and it just feels like the harder you try, the less progress you make. But then during times when you weren't even thinking about weight loss, it just seemed to happen effortlessly. Does that sound familiar? This is why learning to manage your stress effectively is so key when it comes to weight loss and any other health issue for that matter, but today we're talking about weight loss. So trust the process, stay consistent, and give it time. Don't stress, don't rush it, you'll get there. This is also another reason why I believe obsessing about calories can probably do more harm than good. The same goes for stressing about weight fluctuations. Your weight naturally changes daily, and focusing on those little shifts that don't really say anything about long-term progress completely can throw you off track. So don't let a temporary puffy feeling or bloating completely derail your progress, and instead focus your energy on practicing stress management techniques. It will honestly be a game changer in your weight loss journey. And I link my video up here with my top 15 techniques to manage stress and to regulate a dysregulated nervous system. And while we're on the topic, let's also not forget about good quality sleep. Poor or insufficient sleep increases cortisol just as much and really ramps up cravings for unhealthy foods, which of course can also impact weight loss. So getting enough rest is just as important as managing stress and eating well. Tip number 6 is understand the connection between toxins and fat. I already mentioned it in my last video, but toxins love fat and they actually hide in fat cells, which makes losing fat so much harder because you can't burn that fat for good if those toxins aren't gone. So when we burn fat, those toxins are released into the body, and if your elimination pathways like your bowels, kidneys, or skin aren't working properly, those toxins can cause real harm. So to protect you, your body moves those harmful substances away from vital organs and stores them in fat cells again. On top of that, your body also slows down your metabolism to keep those toxins locked away so they're not even being released back into the body. So just like with chronic stress, your body won't go into full fat burning mode if it's still stuck in that survival mode. If your body needs fat to safely store toxins, it's going to hold on to it. That's why trying to lose weight without detoxifying your body doesn't really work. And a little bonus side note, detoxing your body can also reduce water retention. While this obviously doesn't affect actual fat loss, it can make you look and appear slimmer and less puffy. And if you're curious about how toxin overload and water retention are connected, then I'll link my video on the toxin signs and symptoms up here. For this next one, let's just fire out some quick practical eating tips. Fill half your plate with vegetables and aim to eat the rainbow. You want to aim for at least 2 colors per meal. And yes, only vegetables count as colors and no colorful donut. Then control your portion. Sometimes I even grab a smaller plate because it automatically gives me a smaller portion, and it kind of tricks my brain into thinking that I'm eating more since the plate looks fuller. Instead, you can also use hand portions as a guide. So 1 cup-sized amount for carbs, 1 fist-sized amount for veggies and fruits, 1 palm-sized amount for protein, and 1 thumb-sized amount for fats. For desserts or eating out, allow yourself to enjoy 2 to 3 bites of any dessert so that you can really savor the taste and don't feel like restricting and depriving yourself, but without going overboard. This really helped me any binges later in the day or when I get home because I didn't allow myself to have those 2 to 3 bites in the restaurant. Then read your food labels. It's such a game changer. You'll become more aware of what you're putting into your body and understand serving sizes so much better. Just because something is labeled healthy doesn't mean it's low calorie. Another one is to eat until you're 80% full. Then wait 20 minutes, and if you genuinely still feel hungry, after that, go ahead and eat some more. But most of the times, trust me, by the time those 20 minutes are up, you'll have forgotten about going for seconds already. Then this video here helped me so much when it comes to overeating less. I used to listen to it every single night, fell asleep to it, and then would turn it off whenever I woke up, which was usually about an hour in. And I would do that for about a month, if not longer. And it really helped change my thought patterns and also cravings. Then I want you to ask yourself if you're thirsty. Sometimes what feels like hunger is actually dehydration. Making sure you're staying on top of your water and electrolytes can really help you distinguish between hunger and thirst. If you're drinking plenty of water and staying on top of your electrolytes, that alone can really reduce that like growling feeling in your stomach where you think you can't go another minute without eating something. Then adding high quality bone broth to meals is also an extremely good tip. Emphasis on high quality bone broth, but that not only helps with feeling full, but also provides nutrients like collagen that supports your metabolism. Then have a healthy snack handy. I've noticed that if I let myself get too hungry, I'm way more likely to overeat at the next meal. So instead, I now always make sure that I have a small snack on hand to prevent going into that starvation mode in the first place, where you feel like you could demolish anything within sight, and instead have that control to not overeat at the next meal because I've already satisfied some of my hunger with that snack. Then brushing your teeth is one of those things, fake it till you make it. That minty taste really makes sweet food way less appealing, or even having a second serving. And lastly, eat high volume, low energy dense foods. Load up on your fruits, vegetables, lean carbs, and proteins because they will fill you up without packing in the calories and without having that feeling that you're depriving yourself, that you're not eating enough, or that you're restricting. For me personally, no foods are off limits. I'm not a fan of restricting or depriving myself of anything. I don't think that's sustainable, but especially while you're in that deficit, I always focus on nutrient-dense options that really make me feel full and satisfied for so much longer. And if I'm having a treat like ice cream, cookies, or whatever, I'm making sure that I enjoy those treats when I'm not hungry. So go in when you've already satisfied your hunger, because that way you can just enjoy your treat for what it is and enjoy it for the taste, rather than feeling the need to like fill up on it to satisfy your hunger first. This really helped me just stop overdoing it and just having a bite or two, enjoy it, and then move on. Tip number 8, and a huge one, is mastering your mindset. If you want to lose weight long term, you need to shift your entire identity and mindset that you bring to this journey. If you make it about what you do, you will achieve short-term weight loss. If you make it about who you become, you will achieve long-term sustainable weight loss. When you approach weight loss with the right mindset, it will become so much easier to focus on building those sustainable habits instead of relying solely on motivation and discipline. Because trust me, those two will leave first. When that motivation and discipline is gone and beyond every hill that you can see, the only thing that's going to make you stick to it and continue is your mindset. And by shifting your identity to believing that you are a health-conscious person and acting according to that, rather than just forcing those healthy habits down your throat. I made a whole video on all the mindset shifts that I made that helped me lose 22 pounds and keep off for good. So I'm gonna link that over here if you wanna watch that next. But trust me, shifting your mindset is so valuable in seeing results and succeeding, and in this whole journey. Number 9, let's quickly talk about emotional eating. We all know that food often becomes the go-to comfort when you're feeling discomfort, also known as emotional eating. But listen, there are so many other ways to seek out comfort that don't involve food. The key here is finding something that brings you just as much comfort and choosing that instead of food at least 50% of the time. And you will start losing weight without even trying. Number 10, we have a couple of things to avoid. Number 1, don't skip meals or whole nutrient groups. Skipping meals, cutting carbs, avoiding all fats can lead to nutrient deficiencies, stress the body even further, and mess with your hormone function. So please just don't do it. Another thing to avoid are short-term methods. So any juice cleanses, extreme workouts, calorie counting, they all have a time and place in your life, maybe, but not when it comes to weight loss. They might give you quick results, but 9 out of 10 times, it's just gonna lead to more weight gain afterwards. So the classic yo-yo effect. Fried food should obviously be kept to a minimum or even avoided altogether. I think that's a given, since they offer no real health benefits. And if you do indulge, just make it an occasional treat and be mindful with it. Then we want to avoid any empty calories like alcoholic drinks or sodas. I just don't see the point in them. When you're trying to lose weight, why waste so many calories on something that you just gulp down in a second, in something so insignificant than just liquids? Also, just a heads up, alcohol can actually temporarily block fat burning. So when you do drink, your body prioritizes metabolizing that alcohol over burning fat because it's a toxin. So obviously your body wants to metabolize that toxin first before going back to fat burning. So depending on how much you drank or your metabolism, it can take up to 24 hours to get back into your fat burning mode. So just remember that if you do drink, you're probably not gonna burn loads of fat in those 24 hours afterwards. So maybe bear that in mind if you want to make progress faster. And then one last thing, I would recommend not drinking during your meals or just before or just after. It's not directly linked to fat loss, but drinking while eating just dilutes your stomach acid, making your digestion less effective. And we've arrived at the very last bonus tip. Make it as simple and fun as possible. Create an environment that supports your goals, like prepping healthy meals or just getting rid of all the junk food at home. The people who succeed in weight loss the most are honestly the ones that focus on making the process as effortless as possible. And then most importantly, make it fun. Enjoy the ride. Losing weight doesn't have to be that complicated or something that sucks out all the joy in you. Don't get hyper focused on all the details and the numbers. Just keep it simple. Eat whole foods. Move more. Take the stairs instead of the lift. Get your steps in every single day. Move your body in some way or another. Put a happy song on and dance in the kitchen. Anything that makes being healthy more fun and more exciting and more enjoyable, just do it. Trust me, it will make you keep going so much more, and it also reduces the stress. And also try, I know this is so much easier said than done, but try and avoid the guilt after you do indulge in a craving or sweet treat. It happens to everyone. Everyone loves a treat every once in a while, and it's not the end of the world. Remember when I said you need to burn around 7,700 calories in order to lose 1 kilogram of fat? Well, guess what? You equally have to eat an excess of 7,700 calories to gain that 1 kilogram of fat. So just because you indulged one night and then the next day on your scale it says like you've gained 1 kilo, that's not just fat. One indulgence or one treat isn't a big deal. It's not gonna give you that 1 kilogram of pure fat the next day. So just chill, relax. It's probably just water retention or your salt levels or whatever, and just get back on track the next meal or the next day. Prioritize health and nourishment over punishment and restriction, and then you will be fine and you can do this. I believe in you. If you would like one-on-one support and an accountability partner to really guide you through everything, to push through the challenges together, and to be that hype woman for you even when that motivation has left you, then you can find a link below to schedule a free discovery call with myself, because I'd be more than happy to help and be that person for you. And other than that, you can watch this video here if you want to hear about all the mindset shifts that I made to lose 22 pounds and keep off for good. And so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you over there.